Now in this lesson we're talking about backlighting, which assumes that there's front lighting and side lighting, top lighting. It really helps and very important to be real conscious of what direction the light's coming from. That helps us to simplify or shape, to find the shadow pattern. And it sounds like something that is so simple it doesn't really need to be said, but it's so easy, and I do it a lot. I'll get caught up in the aspect of color or detail, and I'll lose the sense of where the light's coming from. And most of that is established early on in the drawing stage and block-in stage, where you're using big shapes and big areas of color and value. So be real conscious of the direction of the light's coming from, because the photograph, again, is just a starting point. When I look at the bushes in here, this one's pretty obvious. You can see the shadow pattern in the front of the trees, all in shadow. The top is light, but I want to force that idea in other areas, like this shrubbery, this area right here. I would force a bigger dark on that whole shape and a little bit of light on the top. Same thing in here. Way too broken up. I want a solid dark shape with a little bit of light on the top and on the edges, just to suggest that backlighting. It can be called rim lighting. A little bit of light on the rim of the rock up here. A little bit of light there. The rest is in shadow, and that's backlighting. It has that strong contrast of, like in this rock, light against dark in the foreground or on the flat plane where the shadow's coming at you. Also the idea of the sky. In this photograph, which is one of the deceiving parts of photography, the sun is right here, just out of view. I didn't want to have the sun in the picture, it would just wash everything out. But the sky is still blue. When I was standing there taking this image, the sky was more towards yellow than blue, because again, you're looking right into the sun, and the only way to show that in paint is to make the sky more yellow than blue. The minute I make it blue, you lose the effect of sunlight in the sky. So looking at a few paintings here, this is a Hansen Puthoff, a very simple, small painting, and he didn't carry it real far as detail, but you can see how solid everything looks. There's almost not much difference between the shrubbery and the trees and the rock. It's the same solid, overall dark shape with a little bit of light on the top and maybe the sides. Same thing with the hills, light on the top, shadow in front, on the front plane of the hill. It's the shadow's the front plane of the tree, front plane of the rock. So the shadows are on the front plane or front part of, or shape of all the trees and rocks and hills. So be very conscious and simplify and get more of that idea of the front being shadow and the tops and sides being lit. This is an Edgar Payne, and he carried this one a little further than Hansen Puthoff's. You can see on Hansen's it's very simple, almost flat dark planes and flat light planes. Here Edgar Payne starts to break up the shadows, breaks up the lights with some detail and some broken color. But you can see in the trees here, even though there's variety of shape on the trees and color, it's still a solid dark shape with a little bit of light on the top. And then of course the shadows coming at you as opposed to maybe falling behind or in the side. And then using the idea of depth. The foreground shadows of the trees and the background shadows of the mountains, there's a big jump in value. And that suggests the depth. Now the sky is fairly blue, but the sun is a little bit more over to the left than it is directly in front. For me, front lighting is anything where the sun is in front of me. It may be in front to the right or left, but it's still in front of me, and that creates the backlighting, the front plane of the objects being in shadow. And if I'm real conscious of that, I can push that idea and make it even more so. It really emphasizes the idea of where the sun is when I'm carefully or consciously making these shadows bigger and filling up more of the front plane of the object. You can see it in the clumps of grass here, and it gets lighter as it goes back. But that's what makes these clumps of grass stand up and the mountains stand up, is that they're dark first with a little bit of light on the top. This is another Hansen Puthoff. What I like also is you have extreme contrast when things are backlit. Sunlit areas, shadow areas. Again, the shadows are coming at you because the sun's in front of you. And you get this real strong, cool contrast and real strong dark and light contrast. Here the sun is, or the sky is moving towards a yellow color. It's a little hazy, so it's not as strong a yellow, but very warm sky against the cool shadows. This is a William Wendt where it's backlit, sky's warmer, all the darks are standing up and the lights are just hitting the edges. But the front lighting, of course, the light's hitting the front, and if you can see any shadows, they're trailing and pointing to the back. Front lighting's a little more flat, and often you'll see paintings where they throw a cast shadow, whether it's a cloud shadow or a mountain to one side or the other, casting a shadow, but that breaks up that flatness that the front lighting gives you, where the backlighting gives you a lot of strong contrast, temperature, and value. And this is side lighting. Sun's coming from the left, shadows are falling to the right. So you have a little bit of both, front and back lighting. You have the definite dark pattern on the right side of all the shapes, mountains, trees, even clouds. But then the light is on the left side instead of the front or the back in backlighting or front lighting. So being real conscious of where the sun is helps you to simplify. This tree right here is probably a lot more complicated looking. He simplifies the shape, simplifies the values, makes it easier to read. So let's be real conscious now of direction of sunlight and push that temperature and value contrast to create the direction that the sun is coming.